"You don't belong here." Todd Simmons barked across the high-stakes poker room, his voice cutting through the ambient clink of chips and murmurs of anticipation, and it landed like a slap, sending a wave of tension over the players and dealers alike. Vanessa Harper paused at the entrance, her dark eyes calm, scanning the room with quiet authority, her jeans and soft cashmere sweater deliberately understated, no entourage, no flashy jewelry, just a thin tablet case in her hand and the air of someone who had seen this play before. The room watched as she stepped forward with slow confidence, the soft shuffle of her sneakers across the polished floor barely audible, yet it marked the beginning of a storm Todd didn't see coming. A dealer hesitated, glancing at her VIP badge but unsure, his hands hovering over the chips as whispers rippled from the nearest tables. "Is she? And who does she think she is?" While a high roller discreetly raised his phone, recording the moment with curiosity rather than judgment, capturing the shift in energy that even the dim overhead lights couldn't hide. Vanessa's gaze met Todd's, steady, unflinching, and for a moment the room held its collective breath as if aware of an unseen boundary she embodied without a word, a presence that radiated control without demonstration. Todd's smirk faltered slightly as he gestured dismissively to his security, a silent order that they block her path. But Vanessa didn't flinch, her calm acting as armor, her voice reserved yet carrying across the room as she murmured softly, "Before we proceed, tell me where you're watching from." A rhetorical engagement that caught the few nearby staff off guard, a subtle reminder that she commanded not just the room, but attention in a way that transcended their assumptions. She paused, letting the murmur of chips and cards fill the space before stepping to the side of the nearest table, hands lightly resting on the edge, scanning each player and dealer with an intensity that drew quiet respect from the spectators. A poker room full of people who thought they ruled the hierarchy, now feeling the weight of her silent authority. Todd's voice rose again, sharper, calling her a trespasser, questioning her credentials, dismissing her presence as a mistake. And yet Vanessa's expression did not change, her poise absolute, a brief memory flickering across her mind of the first time she had been underestimated, dismissed from a room she should have belonged to. The sting of that early injustice fueling the calm determination in her stance today. She shifted her weight slightly, the subtle click of her tablet signaling a connection to an assistant waiting just beyond the casino floor, every eye now subtly tracing her movement, sensing that something pivotal was about to unfold. The dealers exchanged uncertain glances, the high rollers whispered to one another, and even the security staff hesitated, unsure how to proceed with someone who radiated such composed authority. Vanessa Harper inhaled slowly, the air in the room thick with anticipation. And for the first time in that tense poker room, the focus was hers, not because she demanded it with noise or drama, but because she embodied the quiet inevitability of power about to be revealed. Vanessa Harper moved toward the poker table with deliberate steps, her presence commanding without a single raised voice, and the subtle hum of conversations and clinking chips seemed to shift in her wake as the high rollers and staff alike took in the quiet authority she radiated, each glance from her steady eyes reminding the room that appearances could be deceiving. Todd Simmons leaned back, arms crossed, trying to mask the unease spreading across the floor, but his attempts only highlighted the growing tension. A dealer fumbled slightly as he dealt cards, the subtle twitch of his hand betraying the surprise of seeing someone so composed in the midst of a high-stakes environment. Vanessa set her tablet gently on the edge of the table, not as a weapon, but as a tool, and the faint glow from its screen suggested connectivity, a bridge between her calm demeanor and the unfolding strategy. A player seated nearby whispered to his companion, eyes wide, "Is she really just another gambler?" While the companion shook his head, already sensing the difference. Vanessa's mind flickered briefly to previous encounters where she had been underestimated, doors closed, privileges denied, and the sting of those moments strengthened the patience and control she now exhibited. The room began to lean in subtly, cameras lifted by curious spectators, not to sensationalize but to bear witness. Todd's tone rose again, sharp and insistent, demanding verification, questioning her legitimacy, his words bouncing off the polished floor and the felt of the tables. Yet Vanessa did not respond with agitation. Her posture remained upright, hands relaxed, gaze unwavering. She allowed the air to thicken with anticipation, the collective attention of the room drawing tighter with each passing second. The security staff hesitated, unsure whether to intervene or step back. Vanessa's subtle signals were enough. A nod toward the far corner, a slight turn of her head, and her assistant was in motion without disruption. Quietly coordinating the verification of ownership and authority, the tension became a living presence, almost tangible, stretching across the felt, the dealers and players caught between procedure and instinct. Vanessa's calm was a quiet defiance, a statement without speech yet loud in its implication. And as the minutes passed, the uncertainty in the room intensified, a slow realization spreading like ripples across the surface of water, that the woman at the table was not merely another participant, but someone who carried with her the weight of experience, resources, and authority beyond the understanding of those around her. Todd shifted in his chair, his confidence waning, the smirk fading into a trace of apprehension, the murmurs of the crowd and the click of cameras punctuating the mounting suspense. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice soft yet piercing in clarity. "The moment you decided to question me, the room began to change." And in that quiet declaration, the undercurrent of power shifted, a subtle yet undeniable assertion that the tide of control was tilting, and everyone present sensed that the narrative of who held authority in this high-stakes room was about to be rewritten, leaving the players, staff, and spectators suspended in anticipation of the reveal that would follow, a revelation that would redefine the balance and command respect without the need for confrontation. The tension in the poker room intensified as Vanessa Harper remained calm, her eyes scanning each face with a quiet authority that contrasted sharply with the agitation around her. Todd Simmons attempting to regain control, yet visibly unsettled, his voice rising as he repeated, "You cannot sit here without verification," while Vanessa's hands rested lightly on the edge of the table, a subtle signal to her assistant across the room, her calm creating a magnetic pull on the attention of the players and spectators alike, whispers spreading, "Who is she really? And why is he hesitating?" Each one carrying the weight of curiosity and doubt. The dealer's hands hovered over the cards with uncertainty, every movement amplified by the scrutiny of the high rollers and staff. Vanessa's mind briefly revisited earlier moments in her career when she had been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. The sting of those experiences now distilled into a composed resolve that radiated from her presence. The ambient noise of chips and conversations seemed to fade, replaced by the collective awareness of something extraordinary unfolding. Todd waved a hand, attempting to signal the security staff, yet each gesture was met with hesitation, the room collectively sensing that conventional authority had been quietly challenged. Vanessa tapped her tablet once, a discreet command, and the system responded, confirming her credentials and ownership with quiet precision. The subtle click and glow of notifications across the room creating an unspoken shift in dynamics. A high roller leaned forward, phone raised, capturing the transformation of energy, and others began to murmur in recognition that the hierarchy they assumed was suddenly uncertain. Vanessa's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile as she observed the subtle panic creeping into Todd's expression. The dealers and players alike caught between adherence to protocol and instinctive acknowledgement of her presence. The assistant across the room moved efficiently, quietly coordinating verification. Without fanfare, the room's focus now entirely on Vanessa, her calm and collected demeanor becoming the center of gravity. Whispers of "she owns this place, and is this real?" floated above the felt, amplifying the tension. The high-stakes environment charged not by aggression but by the quiet assertion of power. Vanessa Harper inhaled slowly, exhaling just enough to allow the anticipation to stretch. Every player, staff member, and spectator aware that the rules of engagement were shifting. The poker room, previously a stage of assumed dominance and procedure, now bending subtly under the weight of her presence. And as Todd Simmons opened his mouth to interject once more, the room seemed to collectively hold its breath, waiting for the next move. The subtlety of Vanessa's control becoming palpable, a quiet storm of authority, patience, and calculated precision. Each passing second reinforcing the inevitability that the balance of power was about to be revealed. The room suspended, Between disbelief and acknowledgement, a quiet realization that the narrative of command within the casino was being rewritten in real time. Vanessa Harper finally lifted her gaze to meet the collective eyes of the room, the weight of expectation and curiosity pressing in from every direction, her presence commanding attention without a single raised voice. The subtle shift in energy becoming almost tangible. Todd Simmons flinched as he realized that every gesture, every word, every move he had made to assert control now seemed insignificant against the quiet authority radiating from Vanessa. She tapped her tablet again, a gentle motion that triggered a chain of confirmations across the casino's management system, alerts, access rights, and ownership credentials appearing instantly on the screens of the assistant team. Yet she did not celebrate or announce her advantage, instead remaining poised and deliberate, allowing the room to absorb the unfolding reality. Whispers among the high rollers grew. She is not just a player, she is the owner, and everything we assumed is wrong. Their voices tinged with awe and disbelief. The dealers and staff exchanged quick, uncertain glances, their confidence shaken by the calm clarity with which Vanessa moved and observed. Every subtle nod, every slight motion signaling control and assurance that was impossible to ignore. A high roller at the far corner raised his phone, filming with wide eyes as Vanessa's assistant quietly verified her ownership without disrupting the flow of the room. The ambient noise of chips and shuffled cards now a backdrop to the commanding presence she embodied. Todd Simmons tried once more to assert dominance, his words clipped and urgent, but they fell flat, the authority in Vanessa's eyes silencing the space. Her mind reflected on the countless moments when she had been underestimated, overlooked, and denied. Those experiences now crystallizing into a formidable calm that enveloped the room and shifted the balance of power. The security staff paused, caught between their instructions and the undeniable truth of her position. Spectators leaned forward, watching every gesture, every movement, realizing that the narrative of who held power in this high-stakes environment was changing in real time. Vanessa Harper exhaled softly, allowing the weight of her presence to settle, not aggressively, but as a quiet command, a force felt in the collective awareness of everyone present. The poker room, previously a stage of assumed dominance, now responding to a new authority that required no proclamation. Her patience, precision, and strategic calm drawing a line that could not be crossed. Todd's posture stiffened, the smirk replaced with an uneasy awareness, and the murmurs of the crowd intensified as the realization sank in. The high rollers, staff, and spectators all becoming witnesses to a subtle yet powerful shift, a recognition that the rules of engagement had been quietly rewritten, and that the woman who had entered quietly and without fanfare now defined the terms of presence and respect in the room, leaving the entire space suspended in anticipation of what her next move would reveal. The room remained still as Vanessa Harper took a deliberate step closer to the poker table, the subtle sound of her movements filling the space with anticipation, her dark eyes scanning each player, dealer, and security staff member, measuring, calculating, asserting presence without a single word. Todd Simmons shifted uneasily, realizing that the uncertainty that had crept into the room was no longer subtle. Every gesture he made, every attempt to reassert authority now seemed inadequate against the composed certainty emanating from Vanessa. She placed a hand lightly on the edge of the table, her touch deliberate and unhurried, signaling not aggression but control, a quiet command that carried weight far beyond the words spoken in the room. Whispers rippled among the high rollers. Who is she really? And this cannot be just a guest. While other spectators leaned forward, eyes wide, capturing every detail with phones and subtle nods of recognition. The dealer's hands trembled slightly as he dealt, his confidence faltering under the scrutiny of Vanessa's calm, yet intense gaze. A soft glow from her tablet reflected across the felt, notifications confirming her ownership, and credentials flickering subtly, a silent reminder that the structure of authority in the room had shifted irrevocably. Todd tried to speak, his voice clipped and tight, issuing instructions to security, demanding verification, yet Vanessa's presence absorbed the tension without a reaction. She exhaled slowly, letting the air settle and the anticipation stretch across the room. The murmurs grew into a quiet chorus of recognition and speculation, each player, each staff member feeling the weight of her poised authority. Vanessa's mind briefly traced the memories of prior moments when she had been underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. Those moments now distilled into a precise, controlled presence that radiated competence and power. The room responded instinctively, each person recalibrating their perception of hierarchy. The assistant across the room moved silently, executing verification and protocol without disrupting the flow of the game. A subtle nod between Vanessa and the assistant confirmed the chain of authority. High rollers continued to whisper, cameras lifted by curious spectators capturing the shift in energy, and in the silence between the clicks of chips and soft shuffles of cards, the poker room acknowledged the quiet assertion of control. Todd's attempts to re-establish dominance weakened, his smirk fading, replaced by a growing unease. The dealers and staff, now fully aware that the rules they had assumed were firm, had been quietly redefined. Vanessa Harper remained calm, her presence a magnetic center around which the room subtly realigned, every movement deliberate, every glance measured, her authority apparent without proclamation. And as the seconds stretched, the collective realization settled over the room that the quiet, composed woman at the table was not merely a participant, but the fulcrum of command and respect, setting the stage for the next revelation that would leave the entire poker room suspended in awe and anticipation. Vanessa Harper shifted her weight slightly, the subtle movement drawing the eyes of everyone in the poker room, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the rising tension around Todd Simmons, who was now clearly aware that his attempts at control were being quietly undermined by a presence he could not fully assess. A dealer hesitated mid-deal, glancing nervously at the surrounding players, the chips clicking softly as they were moved, but now carrying a different weight. The murmurs of the high rollers grew into low conversations, their attention fixed not on the game, but on the woman at the table. Vanessa's eyes scanned the room with measured precision, noting the slight falters in posture, the hesitant gestures, the subtle shifts in focus that indicated acknowledgement of her authority. She tapped her tablet once more, the quiet command sending verification alerts to her assistant team and confirming every detail of her ownership and credentials without a word. The subtle hum of the notifications seemed to resonate in the room, a soft yet unmistakable reminder that control had quietly changed hands. Todd Simmons tried to interject again, his voice strained and clipped as he issued instructions to the security staff, yet each word fell flat. Absorbed by the presence Vanessa carried so effortlessly, spectators and staff alike found themselves leaning forward, curious and uncertain, their own assumptions challenged by the quiet clarity of her confidence. Vanessa's mind briefly traced back to earlier experiences where she had been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. Those memories now crystallized into a deliberate composure that radiated competence and quiet power. The assistant moved efficiently, executing protocol and verification with unobtrusive precision. The room's collective awareness heightened, every player, dealer, and spectator intuitively sensing the shift. High rollers whispered among themselves, the words carrying a mix of astonishment and recognition. Cameras lifted to capture the scene, yet nothing in the space was forced or theatrical. Vanessa Harper's control was organic, a quiet dominance felt rather than announced. The anticipation stretched across the room as seconds passed, the subtle yet pervasive realization settling in that the hierarchy they had assumed was being quietly rewritten. Todd's posture stiffened, the confidence he had relied upon eroding under the weight of her presence. Dealers and staff recalibrated, their focus now aligned with the new center of authority. Vanessa exhaled softly, the motion almost imperceptible, yet it seemed to steady the room, reinforcing the unspoken command she held. The high-stakes environment, previously a stage of assumed dominance and procedural control, now responded to her subtle assertions. Each glance, each measured movement reinforcing the inevitability that the terms of presence, respect, and attention were now dictated by Vanessa Harper. And in that suspended moment, the poker room collectively acknowledged the quiet shift, the unfolding power, and the anticipation of what revelation would come next, leaving everyone present acutely aware that the narrative of authority had been redefined. The tension in the poker room reached a new level as Vanessa Harper leaned slightly forward, her presence commanding the attention of every player, dealer, and spectator without a single word. Todd Simmons shifted uneasily in his seat, trying to maintain a semblance of authority, but visibly uncertain. The dealers paused in their movements, the soft click of chips and the shuffle of cards now accentuating the quiet power radiating from Vanessa. She raised a hand subtly, signaling her assistant across the room, who began confirming her credentials and ownership in a calm, methodical manner. The verification cascading through the casino management system silently, yet decisively. Whispers rippled from the crowd. She is not just a player, and this cannot be ignored. High rollers craning to see, some raising their phones to record, capturing the unfolding shift of authority in real time. Todd attempted another intervention, his voice clipped as he instructed security and questioned the legitimacy of her presence. But Vanessa Harper remained composed, her calm eyes meeting his with quiet insistence, a subtle reminder that she was in control and no words or gestures could alter that. The spectators and staff felt the energy shift palpably, the room responding instinctively to her unspoken command. Vanessa's mind briefly reflected on earlier experiences, when she had been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked, the memory reinforcing the precision and patience she now carried. Every gesture measured, every breath deliberate, her presence alone shifting the dynamic of the room. The assistant moved efficiently, executing the verification without interrupting the flow of the game. The high rollers whispered among themselves, awe and uncertainty blending in their tones, cameras capturing every movement, yet Vanessa's authority remained understated, powerful in its quiet execution. Todd Simmons' posture stiffened as he realized that conventional dominance no longer applied. The dealers and staff subtly realigned, their focus drawn to her. The collective awareness of the room now centered on Vanessa, the subtle hum of chips, cards, and murmurs framing a scene of controlled tension and anticipation. Vanessa Harper exhaled softly, the motion almost imperceptible, yet it reinforced the dominance she held. The poker room, once a stage of assumed hierarchy, now subtly yielded to her. Every glance, every movement, every whispered acknowledgement marking a recalibration of power. And in that suspended moment, the room collectively recognized the quiet shift, the anticipation building toward the revelation that would confirm her authority and leave every participant aware that the balance of control had been irrevocably altered, setting the stage for the next pivotal move that would redefine the understanding of respect, presence, and command within the high-stakes environment. Vanessa Harper leaned back slightly, her hands resting lightly on the edge of the poker table, the faint sound of shuffling chips and muted conversations providing a steady rhythm as she reflected on the quiet authority she now held in the room. Todd Simmons stood rigid, his previous confidence eroded as he observed the calm composure radiating from her. The dealers and staff exchanged brief, uncertain glances, aware that the room's dynamic had shifted entirely under her presence. A high roller in the corner subtly raised his phone to record the unfolding scene, capturing the moment when the balance of power became tangible. Vanessa's eyes moved slowly across the room, taking in the expressions of each spectator, player, and employee, noting the subtle hesitations, the quickened breaths, the tiny adjustments in posture that revealed their recognition of her authority. She recalled memories of earlier experiences where she had been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated, those instances now crystallizing into a deliberate, controlled confidence that guided each measured motion she made. Her tablet glowed softly as notifications confirmed her credentials and ownership, a silent network of verification completing the unseen framework of her authority without drawing attention to the mechanics. Whispers began to circulate among the crowd, a mixture of astonishment and acknowledgement. She is not just any player, and this is extraordinary, reinforcing the unspoken command that Vanessa held. Todd Simmons tried once more to issue instructions, his tone clipped and sharp, yet it lacked the weight to influence the room. Vanessa's calm presence absorbed the tension, her body language clear and measured, signaling that no further argument was necessary. The spectators leaned forward slightly, their attention fully captivated. The Dealers handled the cards with a careful, deliberate rhythm. The familiar sounds of chips hitting the table and cards being shuffled now underscored by the awareness that the room's hierarchy had shifted. Vanessa's assistant moved with quiet precision across the floor, verifying credentials and confirming authority with unobtrusive efficiency, the subtle coordination adding to the weight of her presence without drawing attention. Each observer sensed the shift instinctively, the room collectively acknowledging the subtle but undeniable change in dynamics. Vanessa Harper exhaled gently, a calm that seemed to solidify the room, the anticipation stretching across the poker floor as the quiet assertion of power became a tangible force. The high-stakes environment, once defined by assumed dominance and procedural hierarchy, now subtly responded to the quiet control she wielded. Every glance, every slight gesture, every whispered acknowledgement reinforcing the inevitability that the terms of presence and respect had been quietly rewritten, and as the room held its collective breath, the moment hung suspended, charged with the awareness that Vanessa Harper's next move would transform the understanding of authority and command in the high-stakes environment, leaving everyone present poised between disbelief, recognition, and the anticipation of revelation. Vanessa Harper's eyes scanned the room with quiet precision, noting every subtle reaction as the poker table shifted beneath the weight of her presence. Todd Simmons fidgeted slightly, the confidence he had relied upon now fraying as he watched the calm command radiating from her. The dealers handled their cards with heightened awareness, glances flicking toward Vanessa with a mixture of curiosity and newfound respect. The subtle hum of chips and shuffled cards underscored the heightened tension. A high roller in the far corner raised his phone, capturing the scene, whispering, "She is not just a participant, she is in control," while other spectators exchanged uneasy murmurs, realizing that the authority they assumed was being quietly redefined. Vanessa's hand rested lightly on the edge of the table, her subtle gestures measured, deliberate, each movement reinforcing the quiet dominance she held. Her assistant moved efficiently across the floor, executing verification of her ownership and credentials with unobtrusive precision, the system responding instantly, confirming the depth of her authority without a word spoken. Todd attempted another instruction, voice clipped and urgent, yet it lacked the weight to influence the room. Vanessa's calm absorbed the tension, her presence alone dictating the attention and behavior of those around her. Whispers grew into a soft chorus of acknowledgement. Everything is different now, and she holds the room, each observer recognizing the shift with growing clarity. Vanessa's mind briefly traced the memories of past experiences where she had been underestimated, dismissed, or overlooked. The sting of those moments transformed into the controlled patience and deliberate confidence she now projected. The high-stakes environment responded intuitively, each dealer, player, and staff member adjusting, acknowledging the new balance without hesitation. Vanessa exhaled softly, letting the room settle into a charged anticipation. Every glance, every subtle movement, every whispered observation amplifying the quiet assertion of her authority. The air in the poker room thickened with focus and suspense. The familiar rhythm of chips and cards now intertwined with the awareness that the hierarchy had been irrevocably altered. Todd Simmons' posture stiffened, his smirk replaced by a careful calculation. The dealer's hands became precise yet hesitant. Spectators leaned forward, their attention fully captured. Cameras lifted, capturing the subtle but undeniable demonstration of power. Vanessa Harper remained composed, every motion deliberate, her gaze steady, reinforcing the understanding that control and respect were now defined by her presence alone. The room, previously a space governed by assumed dominance and protocol, now responded entirely to her measured authority, a silent, pervasive recognition spreading across the floor that the next move she made would solidify the balance of power, leaving everyone present suspended in anticipation of the revelation that would confirm her status and command. Each participant aware that the quiet strength and strategic patience she embodied had reshaped the room, setting the stage for the next unfolding moment that would leave no doubt about who held true authority. Vanessa Harper's presence at the table had shifted the energy in the room to a palpable intensity. Each player, dealer, and spectator now fully aware of the subtle, yet undeniable command she held. Todd Simmons attempted to assert authority once more. His voice clipped, the words sharp, but lacking the resonance they once carried. Vanessa's calm and measured gaze met his, a quiet insistence that spoke louder than any raised tone could. She placed her hands lightly on the felt, fingers brushing the edge of the cards, a deliberate motion signaling focus and control. Her assistant moved seamlessly across the floor, confirming ownership and access credentials with quiet precision, the room watching every small movement. Understanding instinctively that the balance of power had shifted, whispers spread among the high rollers. She is not just here to play, she is in charge, and everything we assumed is wrong. While spectators leaned forward, capturing every detail on phones and in their minds, the dealers handled the cards with care, their actions slower, more deliberate, reflecting a newfound awareness of the authority Vanessa carried. Todd Simmons' posture stiffened, the uncertainty on his face growing. Each instruction he issued was met with an air of quiet observation rather than compliance. Vanessa's mind traced the memory of countless moments when she had been underestimated, dismissed, or denied recognition. The sting of those experiences now distilled into patience and control that radiated outward. Her eyes swept across the room, registering reactions, noting hesitation and respect alike. The subtle hum of notifications from her tablet confirmed the network of verification, a quiet testament to the depth of her influence without fanfare or spectacle. The high rollers whispered to one another, astonishment in their voices. The atmosphere charged with anticipation as everyone realized the game they thought they understood was now being played by a different set of rules. Vanessa Harper exhaled softly, a small motion that carried weight, reinforcing the calm command she held. The room's hierarchy, once assumed and rigid, bending quietly under the presence of her poised authority. Each glance, each small gesture, each whispered acknowledgement from the crowd or staff reinforcing the truth that the terms of respect and control were now dictated by Vanessa. The anticipation stretched across the poker floor, every movement observed, every subtle reaction noted. The collective consciousness of the room absorbed the silent demonstration of her power. Todd Simmons' confidence faltered further, the dealers and staff now fully realigned. Recognizing her as the center of authority, spectators leaned forward, cameras raised, capturing the unfolding shift, and in that suspended moment, the poker room collectively understood that the next actions Vanessa took would solidify her position entirely, confirming to everyone present that the quiet, controlled, and deliberate authority she embodied was absolute, leaving no doubt about who truly held command of the space, and setting the stage for the revelation that would finalize the transformation of power in the high-stakes environment. Vanessa Harper finally leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Todd Simmons with a calm intensity that filled the entire poker room. The quiet authority she carried now unmistakable to everyone present, the dealers and staff watching each movement, the subtle click of chips and shuffle of cards echoing the heightened awareness in the room. Todd's attempts at control faltered as he realized the quiet power emanating from Vanessa could not be contested with raised voices or abrupt gestures. Her assistant moved efficiently behind the scenes, confirming her credentials and verifying ownership without drawing attention. The soft hum of notifications and confirmations became a silent testament to her authority. Whispers grew among the high rollers and spectators. She is not just a guest. She is the one in control, and everything we assumed is wrong. While cameras lifted to record, capturing the precise, measured dominance Vanessa embodied, her hands rested lightly on the felt, a deliberate yet gentle contact, signaling focus, assurance, and unspoken command. The players and staff intuitively adjusted, recognizing the subtle shift in hierarchy. Vanessa's mind flickered briefly to earlier moments when she had been underestimated and dismissed, the sting of those experiences now fueling the controlled, deliberate presence she projected. The room collectively sensed the change, the high-stakes environment responding not to loud assertion but to the quiet, strategic patience she wielded. Todd Simmons' posture stiffened, his voice faltering, each word lacking the weight to influence the room. Dealers handled cards with care, moving deliberately yet uncertainly under her watchful gaze. Spectators leaned forward, attentive and aware that the rules they had assumed were being rewritten. The assistant executed the protocol with precision, a network of verification unfolding. Without disruption, the collective energy in the poker room charged with anticipation and recognition, whispers and soft murmurs carrying astonishment, the awareness spreading that Vanessa Harper was not merely participating but directing the flow of authority, every gesture, glance, and subtle motion reinforcing the shift. Todd's confidence visibly eroded, the staff recalibrating their attention toward her, the high rollers adjusting to the realization that control had quietly changed hands. Vanessa Harper exhaled softly, the motion carrying weight, stabilizing the charged energy and solidifying her dominance without need for proclamation. The poker room responded to her presence as if guided by an invisible hand, the subtle recalibration of attention and respect permeating every corner, each participant aware that the next moment would confirm the new balance of authority. The quiet assertion of power stretching across the felt, through the murmurs, and into the minds of every observer, leaving a suspended anticipation that held the room captive, fully acknowledging that Vanessa Harper's calm, deliberate, and strategic authority now defined who held command and respect in the high-stakes environment. Vanessa Harper finally straightened her posture, the subtle motion signaling the full assertion of her presence in the poker room, every eye now fixed on her with a mixture of awe and anticipation. Todd Simmons' attempts to regain authority had faltered completely. The words he tried to speak now caught in his throat as the room responded instinctively to the quiet command radiating from Vanessa. Dealers handled their cards with careful precision, aware that any misstep could betray uncertainty. In the shifting hierarchy, the faint shuffle of chips and rustle of felt carried a different energy now. Charged with recognition of the new balance, Vanessa's assistant moved seamlessly, confirming ownership and access credentials across the casino management system. The quiet hum of notifications acting as a silent affirmation of control, whispers began circulating more audibly among the high rollers. She is not just a guest, she is the one in charge, and everything we thought we knew is changing. The spectators leaning forward, capturing the unfolding moment on their phones, absorbing the subtle but undeniable power she embodied. Vanessa's hands rested lightly on the felt, the deliberate yet gentle touch signaling focus, confidence, and the quiet execution of authority. Every observer registering the change, Todd's posture stiffened, the faint furrow of his brow betraying his realization that conventional dominance no longer applied. The staff subtly recalibrated, their attention aligned with the measured authority she projected. Vanessa's eyes swept across the room, noting hesitation, acknowledgement, and respect, her mind recalling instances when she had been underestimated and dismissed. The sting of those experiences now distilled into patience and strategic composure that shaped every movement and glance. The poker room, previously a stage of assumed hierarchy, now responded organically to her presence, the collective consciousness absorbing the shift. Without the need for confrontation, the high rollers continued to murmur, their astonishment blending with understanding, cameras capturing every subtle gesture and expression. Vanessa exhaled softly, the gentle motion reinforcing the calm control she held. The room's rhythm, from chip clicks to card shuffles, now punctuated by the recognition of her authority, every motion, glance, and whisper affirming the recalibrated power structure. Todd Simmons' confidence diminished further, the dealers and staff now fully attentive to her cues, spectators fully engaged, capturing the unfolding transformation. And in that suspended, charged moment, the entire poker room collectively acknowledged that Vanessa Harper's quiet, deliberate, and strategic authority had redefined respect, presence, and command, leaving no doubt about who held true control in the high-stakes environment and setting the stage for the final revelation that would solidify her complete dominance. Vanessa Harper finally lifted her tablet, the screen glowing softly as she tapped a series of commands that quietly confirmed her authority over the entire casino, the room collectively holding its breath as the subtle hum of notifications and system confirmations spread across the floor. Todd Simmons' jaw tightened, his earlier confidence now fully eroded by the calm, deliberate assertion of control emanating from Vanessa. The dealers paused in mid-deal, glances darting nervously as they processed the unfolding reality. High rollers leaned forward, cameras raised, whispers rippling through the room. She owns this place, and everything we thought we knew is different. Spectators leaning closer, recording every subtle gesture, every measured movement, aware that a complete shift in hierarchy had occurred. Vanessa's hands rested lightly on the felt, fingers tracing the edge of the table. A subtle yet commanding presence that carried authority without a word. Her assistant moved quietly, executing final confirmations, the system responding instantly. Ownership and access rights affirmed across the casino's network. The air thickened with anticipation, the quiet yet unmistakable assertion of power radiating from Vanessa filling every corner. Todd Simmons attempted one last instruction, voice faltering, his gestures lacking the weight to influence the room. Vanessa's gaze met his with a controlled intensity, a silent but unmistakable declaration of authority. The players and staff adjusted instinctively, recognizing the recalibrated balance of power, the soft click of chips and rustle of cards punctuating a room fully aware of her dominance. Whispers continued to grow, a mixture of astonishment and acknowledgement. Every observer aware that the next moment would confirm the absolute control she now held. Vanessa exhaled softly, a deliberate motion that seemed to stabilize the room, the high-stakes environment responding entirely to her composed presence. Every glance, every subtle nod, every small movement reinforcing the understanding that she dictated the terms of respect and attention. Todd Simmons' posture stiffened, uncertainty and surprise etching his features, dealers and staff aligning their focus with hers. Spectators absorbed the unfolding transformation, cameras capturing the demonstration of strategic, controlled power, and in the quiet charged atmosphere, the room collectively acknowledged that Vanessa Harper's calm, precise, and deliberate authority had not only shifted the hierarchy, but had completely rewritten it, leaving no question about who held command and respect in the high-stakes environment. Every individual present suspended in the moment, fully aware that they had witnessed the final confirmation of her power, the subtle, measured dominance she displayed marking a turning point that would be remembered and discussed long. After the last card was dealt, every corner of the poker room now aligned with her authority, the silent assertion of control leaving a lasting impression. And as she finally looked around the room, a faint, confident smile crossing her features, it was clear that the space now belonged entirely to Vanessa Harper. The recognition of her power complete, absolute, and undeniable.